A couple days ago, I took delivery of what I consider to be one of the most unique tools on the market to fight flies on cattle. I'm talking about my Fussel Farms Cow Sprayer. I am really excited to put this thing to use, and in this video, we're gonna get this all unpackaged, set up, get it set up over at the ranch, and I will tell you guys a little bit about how it works and what it does. That's what's going on today on Farmertylerranch. I pretty much have it unwrapped now. I'm just trying to figure out how am I going to get this off the pallet without breaking myself. And I think what I will do, because this is intended to be moved around, there's actually a spot here where you can bolt a tongue onto it and move it around with like a four-wheeler or side-by-side or whatever. So I think maybe I'll put the tongue on first, and then we'll hook it up to the side-by-side, and then I bet you I can just tow it right off of there. We're safely off the pallet now, and the next thing that I want to do is fold this thing up, stand it up. I need to free up these mounting tabs where they have the limit switches mounted for shipping. So we can take these off and set them out of the way. In fact, let's put the arms on and just put the limit switches where they need to go, and then hopefully we can stand this thing up. So we got our arms on the pallet here. I'm just gonna leave those loose for now because that's not gonna be where I want that. So we'll just get them out of the way, get this thing stood up, and then get everything where it's gonna stay. This next part probably ought to require two people, but I don't have a second person here, so I'm gonna try to do this by hand. If I can't, then I'll just hold the pallet forks up over this thing and use a strap, or I don't know, I'll find some way to do it. It's one of those things where it's like, I probably could do it, but I probably shouldn't do it. So let me get a little bit smarter about this. Definitely glad I decided to use the tractor to stand that thing up. This is made out of really heavy wall steel. That's actually one of the first things that I noticed about it when it showed up the other day. This main frame is quarter wall. It looks like 3-inch square tubing to me, which quite honestly, in my opinion, is overkill for this. But what that means is that they built this the way that I would have built it, and I'm not gonna have to worry about this frame bending or cracking, you know, if a cow like wants to try to scratch on it or something. So now I think I'm going to install the battery and hook everything up so that the built-in solar panel can start to charge that battery while we finish the rest of the setup. Got the battery tied down now. It's nice and solid, not going anywhere. So I mean, this wiring is super simple. Your black wires go to your negative, your red wires go to your positive. Now you'll notice there are two wires on either connection here. One wire is going to the solar panel for the purpose of charging the battery, and then the other wire is going out to power the pumps. So it is worth noting, the battery does not come with the sprayer. This is something you have to buy yourself. And they recommend getting a lawnmower battery with 340 cranking amps. I got one with 365 cranking amps just because that's what was available, but 340 is all Fussel Farms recommends that you actually need. All right, so we should be charging. And according to our solar controller, we are charging. And last but not least, we got some stabilizer legs. Well, that should pretty well do it for the assembly of the cow sprayer. Let's go put it at the ranch in the place where it's going to be. There you have it. The sprayer is in the gateway here, set up and ready to go. So let's talk a little bit about how this all works. So on my setup here, the water for the cattle is up here in the corral, and obviously the grazing is out here in the pasture. So on an average day, the cattle are going to be out grazing in the morning. They usually come up mid-morning, get a drink, lay in the shade, and they're kind of back and forth through this gateway most of the day. With the cow sprayer in place, there's really only one way that they can access the corral to get water, and that is to walk right through it. When the cattle walk through the sprayer this way, nothing happens. But when they're done lounging around in the shade and they want to go back out and graze, they're going to walk back through the sprayer going this way. And when they do that, this is what will happen. A little bit wider. Walking through the sprayer this way activates these limit switches. These are just like little plastic arms that as they rub along the cow's body, she's pushing these limit switches and activating them. I can set these to run for 2 seconds or 1 second via a little switch up here on the box. And I think the reason that they set it up that way is so that if one is walking through here and, like, let's say she stops, it's not just going to sit here and continuously rain whatever you've got in the tank on her. This system has 8 spray nozzles. There's 3 on the top, 3 on the bottom, and then 1 on either side. So you're getting complete coverage all the way around the cow as she walks through here. There's also a little sensor here in the tank so that when it runs out of material, it shuts it off so it's not running the pump dry. You know, you might leave this out somewhere and not get a chance to look at it for several weeks possibly. So in that event, this would save the pump. I think the downfall to most fly sprays is that they need to be applied regularly, and it's not realistic to like put the cows through the chute or through the corrals every 2 or 3 days to put fly spray on them. And if you've ever tried to just sort of walk through the corral and do it without locking them up, they don't really like to be sprayed. And because of that, we're gonna have to do a little bit of training with them to get them to walk through this thing. So the plan is when I put them in this pasture, I'm just gonna turn this off and let them get used to walking through the sprayer while nothing happens. After they're used to that, then we can flip that on and get them used to being sprayed. Right now, where I've got the switches placed, by the time the cow activates the spray, her head is already past the nozzle, so she's not going to get sprayed in the face or anything like that that might, you know, cause her hesitancy to walk through this thing again. By the time she activates the sprayer, it'll probably hit her at her shoulders and on back. And honestly, that's really where you want to hit them anyway. But as time goes on and they get used to walking through it, we can move these arms back so that it triggers the spray earlier. So, like, let's say the limit switch was back here, and by the time her shoulders hit it, her face is going to be right next to the nozzle, and then that way we're getting a spray over her entire body. I forgot it was on. And depending on what you're spraying on them, it might depend on where you want it to hit them. Some of those chemicals you may not want to be spraying on their face and potentially getting them in their eyes, but I think most of the natural fly sprays would be fine, and the cattle probably learn to kind of close their eyes or squint their eyes as they walk through that thing anyway. When it's time to move the cows into another field, then I can just hook this thing up to the side-by-side and put it in this gateway. The last little feature about this sprayer that I like, and I want to point out, is that there is a second pump right here. And when I first saw that, I wasn't sure what it was for. But as I look at the way that it's plumbed, what this is, it's like an agitator pump. So when you first turn the sprayer on, this pump cycles for several seconds. What that's doing is it's just mixing up that solution, so in case whatever you're spraying on the cows, if it's starting to separate or something like that, then that pump mixes it. What I'm not sure about is if this just automatically goes off like every hour or what. I'll have to call the company and see what's going on with that. These are made in Georgia, and it's like 3 o'clock right now, which means it's probably 6 o'clock in Georgia, and I don't think those guys are at work still. So I will find out what the deal is with that agitator pump. Surely it's on some sort of a timer. I'm just not sure how often it goes off. So for now, I'm going to shut this thing off so that when the cattle make it into this pasture later today, they can just get used to walking through this thing, and they'll get used to walking through it with nothing happening to them. And once they realize that this is fine, it's not going to hurt them, then we can mix up a solution of fly spray and click this thing on and start killing flies without having to lift a finger. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.